Hello everyone, welcome back to How to Become. Hope you enjoyed my videos. Can you please like and subscribe? Thank you. How to Become Superman. Chapter 1. Born of Two Worlds. The Origin of Hope. You were sent here for a reason. You may not know what it is yet, but one day, you will. The Fall of Krypton. It begins not on Earth, but among the stars, in the final heartbeat of a dying world. Krypton, a civilization of intellect, power, and arrogance, a planet with technology far beyond ours. But its people, brilliant though they were, had become blind to humility, deaf to warning, doomed by their own pride. Jor-El, a scientist of uncommon vision, saw what others refused to accept. Krypton was collapsing, its core unstable, its doom inevitable. And in those last moments, when others fought, denied, or fled into fantasy, Jor-El and his wife, Lara, made a decision not of escape, but of hope. They looked at their infant son, Kal-El, and knew he would never survive on Krypton. So they sent him to a distant blue planet, Earth, not as an exile, but as a seed of everything Krypton could have been. He will be free, he will be strong, and he will be good. As fire swallowed their home, that small ship cut through the darkness of space, carrying not just a child, but a legacy, the last son of Krypton, crash landing into destiny. He landed in Kansas, not in a kingdom, but a cornfield, not in the arms of royalty, but of Jonathan and Martha Kent, two farmers who had every reason to be afraid. And yet, they chose faith, chose to take in this mysterious child, raise him as their own, and name him Clark. Imagine that. A child with the power to crush mountains, being raised by people who never once asked for credit, glory, or repayment. They didn't just teach him to control his strength. They taught him when not to use it. They taught him restraint, humility, compassion. That's where Superman was truly born. Not in a spaceship, but in a home where values mattered more than abilities. You have great power, Clark. But with that power comes a choice. What kind of man will you be? In a world obsessed with strength, the Kents raised a boy who knew that the greatest strength is kindness. A boy who felt alien. Growing up in Smallville, Clark felt different because he was. He could hear things others couldn't, see through walls, lift tractors. He couldn't be hurt, couldn't get sick, couldn't fit in. He felt like a stranger in his own skin. He didn't know where he came from, why he had powers, or what his purpose was. All he had were questions. And yet, through all the confusion, he never let bitterness win. He didn't isolate. He didn't lash out. Because his parents taught him something powerful. You don't have to have all the answers to do the right thing. Clark's powers didn't make him Superman. His choices did. The power of restraint. There were moments, countless moments, when Clark could have fought back. When bullies pushed him. When others mocked him. When injustice stared him down. He didn't retaliate. Not because he was weak, but because he was strong enough not to need revenge. Imagine that. Being capable of unimaginable force and choosing peace. That's not cowardice. That's courage. That's character. Superman was forged in those moments of quiet strength, when he could have acted, but didn't. Because real power isn't just what you can do, it's what you choose not to do. Two identities, one purpose. As Clark grew, he began to understand the truth, that he was not just Clark Kent from Smallville. He was also Kal-El of Krypton. But this wasn't a rejection of his roots. It was a synthesis. He didn't have to choose between his human upbringing and his alien heritage. He became both. Clark Kent gave him humanity. Kal-El gave him purpose. And from that union, Superman was born. A hero not just of muscle, but of meaning. He didn't fight because he enjoyed violence. He fought because he believed that when people are in danger, you don't look away. You show up. Why hope begins with origin. So what does all this mean for you? You're not from Krypton. You don't shoot lasers from your eyes or leap tall buildings. But you are born of two worlds. One world is your circumstance, the place you come from, your past, your story. The other world is your potential, the person you're capable of becoming, the hero you're meant to be. And just like Superman, you get to choose. Will your past define you, or will it prepare you? Superman isn't special because he's powerful. He's special because he chooses purpose over pain, service over fear, and hope over helplessness. The Krypton inside you. Every one of us has a little Krypton inside us. Pieces of the past that didn't survive. Pieces that burned. Traumas. Regrets. Things we lost. And yet, those losses don't make you weak. They make you human. And maybe that's the message here. You don't have to be from another planet to be a force for good. You just have to be willing to be the kind of person who shows up, holds the line, and leads with light, even when no one's watching. Superman didn't wait to be invited. He didn't ask for permission. He heard a call and answered it. Your rocket has already landed. You're already here. You've already landed in your own version of Kansas. You're already surrounded by people, challenges, and choices that are shaping who you are. The question isn't, can you be like Superman? The real question is, will you have the courage to become who you were born to be? Because you don't need a cape to stand for something. You don't need powers to lift others. And you don't need alien DNA to be extraordinary. You just need the will to rise. What the S really means. In Kryptonian, the S on Superman's chest doesn't stand for Superman. It stands for hope. It's a symbol that says, even in the darkest times, there is light. Even when the world burns, there is rebuilding. Even when things fall apart, you can hold them together. Even when you are the last of your kind, you can still be the first to lead the way forward. Becoming Superman begins with belief. So, what can we learn from chapter 1 of his story? That greatness doesn't start in the spotlight, it starts in silence, in the stillness of character, in the small moments no one sees. When you choose integrity over popularity, sacrifice over comfort, and discipline over distraction. You don't need a spaceship to change the world. You just need to believe that your life has purpose, even if you don't see it yet. Superman was born from two dying worlds, Krypton and human fear, but became the bridge between them, not by conquering, but by serving. So if you want to become like Superman, don't chase power. Chase purpose. Don't seek control. Seek clarity. Be someone others can lean on. Not because you're invincible, but because you never stop trying. And above all, remember this. You don't need to wear the S to mean something. You just need to become someone who chooses to matter. Every day. That's where legends begin. That's where you begin. Chapter 2. Becoming the Shield. Learning to stand alone. Sometimes being a symbol means standing alone, even when your knees want to buckle. The first real test. Every hero faces a moment that redefines them. For Clark Kent, that moment didn't come with glory, applause, or celebration. It came with silence. The silence of responsibility. He had grown into his powers. He could now fly, see through steel, hear cries miles away, and lift impossibilities with ease. But power is just potential. The challenge lies in knowing what to do with it. In Metropolis, a city of ambition, noise, and shadows, Clark stepped into adulthood. He became a journalist at the Daily Planet, a job that might seem mundane for someone with cosmic abilities. But it wasn't a cover. It was a commitment. Because to understand the people he wanted to help, he had to walk among them, as one of them. If I'm going to save them, I have to know them. This was the first step in becoming Superman. Learning to stand alone, not as an alien, but as a man, walking among us. Clark Kent was never a disguise. It was his choice, to be ordinary when he was anything but. And in that choice, we see his first true superpower, empathy. He didn't place himself above others. He placed himself beside them. He took the subway. He waited in line. He dealt with rude bosses, bills, and broken coffee machines. And all the while, he listened. He heard the city, not just in sound, but in spirit. Its pain, its struggle, its hopes. Because how can you save people you don't understand? I could hear 1,000 cries a day. But what mattered was knowing why they cried. The birth of the symbol. Superman's first appearance wasn't flawless. It wasn't orchestrated. It wasn't even welcome. When he first showed up to stop a collapsing bridge, people weren't grateful. They were terrified. Who is he? What does he want? Why now? They didn't see a savior. They saw a threat. But he didn't flinch. He didn't yell back. He didn't fight fear with force. He helped silently, calmly, reassuringly. He stood beneath tons of steel with his hands outstretched, holding back death itself, not to be praised, but because it was the right thing to do. That's when the symbol was born. Not when he wore the suit. Not when he flew. But when he chose to help anyway. Even when he wasn't trusted. Because being Superman isn't about being adored. It's about being dependable. Especially when it's hard. Learning to stand alone. Superman quickly realized the cost of being different. The more he helped, the more some people pushed back. Politicians debated his legality. Media twisted his image. Criminals adapted, grew more dangerous. Even ordinary citizens asked, what gives him the right? And yet, he never stopped. He saved the very people who doubted him, risked his life for the same cities that questioned his motives. Because real heroes don't save people because they're loved. They do it because it's right. And that meant something profound. He had to learn to stand alone. Not in solitude, not in arrogance, but in conviction. Every hero has doubts, don't be mistaken. Superman wasn't immune to doubt. He questioned himself constantly. Am I doing the right thing? Am I helping or hurting? Will they ever truly accept me? But here's what made him Superman. He acted anyway. Fear didn't stop him. Confusion didn't paralyze him. Rejection didn't derail him. Because when you're trying to become something more, when you're becoming your own version of a hero, you will be misunderstood. You will feel alone. And still, you must choose to show up. That's what standing alone looks like. Not isolation, but unwavering belief in doing the right thing, even when the crowd walks away. The enemies. You didn't ask for power attracts challenge. And Superman quickly found that standing for something means you'll stand against something too. Enter Lex Luthor. Brilliant, charismatic, ruthless. Lex didn't just oppose Superman physically. He opposed him philosophically. To Lex, Superman was a threat to human progress, a false god, a crutch that made people weaker. And Superman, he didn't try to destroy Lex. He tried to understand him. That's the difference between a conqueror and a guardian. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to protect. Even those who hated him I don't fight because I hate what's in front of me. I fight because I love what's behind me. The city that taught him strength. Metropolis didn't just give him battles, it gave him lessons. Every alley held a story, every rooftop a decision, every disaster a choice. And from those choices, Clark became Superman, not by defeating enemies, but by refusing to become one. He showed that strength isn't about overpowering the world, it's about lifting it, one person at a time, one choice at a time. Even when no one says thank you, even when no one sees. What this means for you. Standing alone doesn't mean being alone. It means being anchored. Anchored to your values. Anchored to your principles. Anchored to your mission. Because the more you rise, the more resistance you'll face. People will question your motives. They'll doubt your vision. They'll try to shrink you back to the version of you they're comfortable with. But Superman teaches us, you don't need permission to live your truth. You just need the courage to live it out, consistently, respectfully, and without fear. The shield isn't just for show. The iconic S isn't armor. It's not decoration. It's a promise. A promise that someone will always be there. A promise that strength will be used for good. A promise that when all else fails, someone will stand. And here's the secret. You can wear that shield too. Not on your chest, but in your actions. Every time you speak up for what's right. Every time you protect someone who's vulnerable. Every time you keep your word. Especially when it's hard. You become a shield. Becoming Superman isn't about being liked. It's about being reliable. It's about doing the hard thing, even when it's the lonely thing. Because sometimes the path of greatness is a solitary one. But in walking it, you become the kind of person the world needs most. Someone who stands, even when others fall. Someone who believes, even when others doubt. Someone who protects, even when they're not protected. That's what it means to become the shield. And if you can do that, even in small ways, even in your own life, then you're already more like Superman than you think. Chapter 3. The weight of the world. Carrying what others can't. With great power comes not just great responsibility, but great burden. The invisible burden. From the outside, Superman looks invincible. He can fly. He can stop bullets. He can lift buildings. But strength isn't measured in muscle or might. It's measured in endurance. And the heaviest things he ever carried weren't made of metal. They were made of expectations. Every day, the world looks to him for answers. Save us. Protect us. Inspire us. But who saves Superman? That's the question no one asks. Because when you become a symbol, people forget you're also a person. Clark had to learn this the hard way. That being a hero doesn't just mean catching falling planes. It means carrying pain. Pain that isn't yours. Pain that no one sees. Pain that doesn't go away. Pain that haunts you not because of failure, but because of the standard you set for yourself. Perfection. There's no handbook for being Superman. No blueprint. Every decision he makes becomes history. Every action becomes philosophy. And that invisible weight, the fear of not living up to the world's idea of who Superman should be, presses down harder than gravity ever could. It's the burden of being more than just a man. It's the burden of being a symbol. The pain of always being needed. There is no off switch for Superman. He hears everything. Cries for help in alleyways, sirens miles away, the rumble of disasters across continents. Every second of every day, someone is in danger. And only he can help. The temptation to do it all is real. But so is the cost. How do I choose who to save when I hear them all, No one trains you for that. No one tells you how to live with the screams you couldn't reach in time. He carried those failures, silently, stoically. Because sometimes the greatest strength is holding on to hope. When the weight of the world is pressing down on your soul, he learned to accept that he couldn't be everywhere. But he also learned that every life he couldn't save would live in his memory. And with each new day, he would try harder. Not for redemption, but for hope. The isolation of being. Everything to everyone, people admire Superman. They love him. They worship him. But few know him. How could they? He's not just a man. He's a myth, a symbol, a beacon. And it's hard to relate to a beacon. Even those closest to him, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, Perry White, could only glimpse pieces of who he really was. Because every moment he let down his guard was a moment someone else might suffer. Clark Kent became the mask, not Superman. Because the world didn't want to see Clark. It needed Superman. It needed hope personified. But inside, he longed to be just a man, to be known not for what he could do, but for who he was. That's the paradox of leadership. You're surrounded by people and still feel alone. He bore it with grace, with patience, with quiet resilience. Because sometimes the price of being the strongest is not being allowed to break. And when he did break, it was never in public. Because vulnerability from a god is too terrifying for mortals to witness. So he held it in. Not because he was made of steel, but because he believed they needed him to be. When the world fights back, despite all he gave, not everyone welcomed him. Governments feared him. Militaries challenged him. Terrorists targeted him. Some even tried to assassinate him. Not because of what he did, but because of what he could do. Superman never fought for power, but that's what made him dangerous. Because real power, quiet, selfless, unwavering power, terrifies people who rely on fear to control others. So they tried to control him, to limit him, to turn him into a weapon or a puppet. And when he refused, they labeled him the enemy. He stood before courts, hearings, political inquiries, not to defend himself, but to remind humanity of its own fears. And still, he served. Still, he protected, even those who would see him fall. The world fears what it can't understand, and sometimes it bites the hand that saves it. Still, he didn't lash out. He didn't turn cold. He carried it with dignity. Because that's what heroes do. The cost of mercy Superman could end almost any battle in seconds, but he didn't. Because his goal was never destruction. It was transformation. He saw potential in everyone, even his enemies, even Lex Luthor. He gave second chances. He held back when others would have struck. He forgave when others would have punished. True strength isn't measured by how much force you can unleash, but by how much you can withhold. But mercy has a price. It made him vulnerable. It gave villains chances to strike again. And sometimes, people got hurt because he believed too much in humanity. He carried that guilt like a scar across his soul. But he never let it fester into cynicism. Because the moment he stopped believing in people was the moment he stopped being Superman. Even with enemies who exploited his mercy, Brainiac, General Zod, Darkseid, he held firm to his ideals. Because losing his faith in humanity would mean losing himself. Carrying Krypton. There's another weight Superman carries, one deeper, quieter, more personal. The weight of an entire lost world. Krypton wasn't just a place, it was his heritage, his family, his origin. And it was gone. Every time he looked at Earth's sun, he felt the power it gave him. But it also reminded him of what he lost, He was the last son of a forgotten planet, the last voice of a silenced people, the last memory of a civilization that would never rise again. And he carried that legacy like a torch, not to mourn, but to honor. He studied Krypton's culture, language, philosophy. He built the Fortress of Solitude not as a retreat, but as a sanctuary of memory, a place where the past could live on, not to escape Earth, but to remind himself why he fights for it. He didn't let grief destroy him. He let it refine him. How you carry your world. You may not be Superman, but you have your own world to carry. Your family, your responsibilities, your community, your pain. And sometimes it feels like too much. But the lesson isn't that you should be unbreakable. It's that you're stronger than you think. Superman teaches us that carrying the weight doesn't mean pretending it's easy. It means choosing not to give up, even when you're tired, even when you're unseen, even when you're carrying things others can't understand. You show up anyway. You stay kind anyway. You believe anyway. Because hope isn't the absence of struggle. It's the decision to rise through it. You don't have to lift the world. Just don't let it crush you. And when you feel like you can't carry it anymore, remember, even Superman needed help sometimes. Even he had the Justice League. Even he leaned on Lois. You don't have to do it alone. But never let the weight define you. Let it forge you. The heart of a hero. At the core of Superman isn't strength. It's service. Not to a cause, not to a government, not even to a planet, but to people, to individuals, to the forgotten, to the voiceless. He carried the weight of their fears, their dreams, their mistakes. Not because he had to, but because he chose to. And that's what made him Superman. Not his cape, not his flight, not his power, but his willingness to carry what others couldn't. His refusal to let pain turn to bitterness. His unshakable belief that the world is worth saving. And if we carry that belief, even a piece of it, we too can rise above our pain, above our failures, above our limits. We too can become something greater. We too can carry the world. Not because we must, but because we can. Chapter 4. The Power of Choice. Becoming the man, not the god. It's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you. The dilemma of divinity. Superman could have ruled the world. With his power, he could have bent nations to his will, enforced peace with iron fists, ended every war, silenced every tyrant, and crowned himself the undisputed ruler of Earth. Some begged him to. Others feared he would. But he didn't. Because Superman never wanted to be a god. He wanted to be human. That's the choice that defines him. Not power, not strength, not alien birthright, but choice. In every moment, Clark chooses restraint over dominance, compassion over conquest, humility over pride. And that choice isn't easy. Because when you can do anything, the hardest thing is choosing to do only what's right. The real test of character isn't when you're weak. It's when you're strong and still choose kindness. We all crave control at times. Over our lives, our pain, our futures. But Superman teaches us that greatness isn't found in control. It's found in discipline. The strength to not let your power define your purpose. And that's what makes him more than just a superhero. That's what makes him moral. The myth of perfection. People think Superman is perfect, that he never doubts, never falters, never questions. But the truth is, Clark wrestles with uncertainty daily. He second guesses, he worries, he feels. Perfection was never his goal. Purpose was. He makes mistakes. He's been manipulated, misled, even defeated. But what sets him apart isn't flawless execution. It's relentless accountability. He doesn't run from failure. He learns from it. He doesn't hide his faults. He grows through them. And when he stumbles, he doesn't stay down, because the world doesn't need a perfect hero. It needs a present one. One who shows up even when it hurts, even when he's unsure, even when he's been knocked down 1,000 times. Superman's power doesn't make him immune to pain. It gives him the duty to rise in spite of it. Clark Kent. The real identity. People say Clark Kent is the disguise, that Superman is who he really is. But that's not true. Superman is the symbol, the dream, the ideal. Clark Kent is the man. He's the one who grew up in Smallville, the one who worked a job, paid rent, got rejected, made friends and fell in love. He's the one who visits his mom, worries about the future, and tries to do the right thing even when it's hard. That's the version he chose. Not the cape, not the fortress. The everyday man who walks among us. Being Superman is a responsibility. Being Clark is a choice. He didn't want to rise above humanity. He wanted to walk beside it. That's why he values journalism, because truth matters. That's why he values Lois, because love grounds him. That's why he values Kansas, because roots give wings meaning. Clark isn't the mask, he's the heart. And the heart, not the powers, is what makes Superman. Superman. The temptation of power. Throughout his life, Superman faced countless opportunities to take control, to shape the world in his image, to fix its flaws by force. In alternate timelines, he did, and the results were terrifying. We saw him as a tyrant in the Injustice universe, as a dictator who imposed peace through fear, as a god who lost his way. Because when pain corrupts purpose, even the noblest intentions can birth nightmares. But our Superman, the one who chose humanity, never gave in. Not because it was easy, but because he believed freedom matters more than control. He knew humanity needed to fail, struggle, rise, and fall on its own terms. His job wasn't to rule it, it was to inspire it. That's the choice every powerful person faces: to lead or to dominate, to uplift or to control. Superman always chose to lead, by example, choosing compassion over cynicism. When you see everything, all the crime, all the pain, all the corruption, it's easy to become jaded, to believe people can't change, to lose hope in humanity. But Superman never did. Even after betrayal, even after loss, even after watching humanity make the same mistakes again and again, he never stopped believing. Because he saw not just what we are, but what we could be. And he chose to nurture that vision. Anyone can see darkness. It takes strength to keep seeing the light. Clark's compassion wasn't weakness, it was his weapon. He talked villains down from ledges. He saw the child inside the criminal. He offered redemption when others only saw punishment. Not everyone took it. But that wasn't the point. The point was this: he didn't let the world's pain corrupt his kindness. He chose to remain open. And in that choice, he stayed human. Your power, your choice. You may not have X-ray vision, you may not fly, but you have power. The power to choose your response, to choose your values, to choose what kind of person you'll become. Every time you show mercy when you could strike. Every time you forgive when it's easier to resent. Every time you hold on to hope when the world seems lost. You're doing what Superman does. You're choosing character over control. Superman shows us that the true battle is not against villains. It's against the temptation to give in, to let pain harden you, to let fear define you, to let power consume you. But you can choose. every day. And in that choice lies your true strength. Becoming the man. At the end of the day, Superman isn't about power. He's about restraint. He's not about invincibility. He's about vulnerability. He's not about perfection. He's about purpose. He's not about being a god. He's about being a good man. And that's what makes his story ours. Because we too must make choices. We too must carry burdens. We too must decide, will we rise above or fall beneath? Superman chose to be Clark, a man of truth, of love, of faith. Not because he had to, but because he believed in us. Now it's our turn to believe in ourselves, to choose light over dark, service over ego, hope over despair. That's how you become more than what the world expects. That's how you become super. Chapter 5, Fortress of Solitude, Finding Your Inner Peace. Sometimes, the greatest strength is found in silence. The myth of constant strength. From the outside, Superman appears unshakable, faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, invincible, infallible, infinite. But even Superman needs to rest. Even Superman needs time to reflect. Even Superman, with all his strength, needs space to be still. And that's what the Fortress of Solitude represents. Not isolation, not exile, but intentional retreat. A sacred space where the noise of the world quiets, where burdens are laid down, where identity is rediscovered and peace is restored. Because no matter how strong you are, you can't pour from an empty cup. And if Superman, the man of steel, needs to step away to reconnect with his purpose, so do you. The Fortress. Within the Fortress of Solitude isn't just a physical place in the Arctic. It's a metaphor for that quiet place inside all of us. The one untouched by chaos. The one beyond ego, beyond fear, beyond comparison. It's where your truth lives. The place where you remember why you started. Where you listen to your own voice, not the crowd's. Where your heart speaks louder than your doubt. Too often, we run from silence. We fill our days with noise, our minds with distraction. Because silence is uncomfortable. But in silence, we find clarity. In solitude, we find strength. The world may demand your attention, your energy, your perfection. But the fortress reminds you, you are already enough. The weight of the world's Superman hears every cry for help, every tragedy, every injustice. He carries the weight of the world, literally and emotionally. And sometimes it overwhelms him. Because being a symbol doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means you feel everything and still choose to rise. But even Superman needs to step back, to breathe, to center himself. Not because he's giving up, but because he's refueling. You can't save the world if you lose yourself trying. And in that sacred stillness, he remembers what really matters. Not saving everyone, but showing up with presence. Not doing it all, but doing what he can, with all his heart. Solitude is not loneliness. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Loneliness is the ache of disconnection. Solitude is the power of reconnection. When Superman retreats to the fortress, he's not escaping. He's returning. To the memories of Krypton, to the lessons of his parents, to the legacy of who he was born to be. We all need that space, that room to feel, to remember, to rebuild. Because in the chaos of life, it's easy to forget who you are. The world tells you to hustle, to achieve, to win. But the fortress whispers something different. Be still, and know you are whole. Stillness as superpower. Stillness isn't weakness. Stillness is strength under control. It's the eye of the storm, the calm in the chaos, the breath before the leap. Superman doesn't emerge from the fortress weaker. He emerges sharper, more focused, more aligned with his core. Because reflection fuels resilience. When was the last time you unplugged? When was the last time you sat with your thoughts? Not to fix them, but just to feel them. What would happen if you gave yourself that space? The world won't stop, but you'll find that when you do, even briefly, you return stronger, more centered, more whole. Reconnecting with purpose. Inside the fortress, Superman is not the savior. He's the son, the dreamer, the soul. He listens to recordings from Kal-El. He studies Kryptonian history. He remembers what it meant to lose a world and why he must protect this one. This isn't nostalgia. It's alignment. Because when you reconnect with your roots, your why, your truth, you regain your power. Not the external kind, but the quiet kind. The inner compass that keeps you steady when the winds of life blow hard. We all lose our way sometimes. The fortress is where we find it again. Building your own fortress. You may not have a crystal palace in the Arctic, but you can build your own fortress. In your room, in your morning walk, in a journal, a prayer, a playlist, wherever you feel safe enough to be real. Make space for solitude. Schedule it. Protect it. Honor it. Because in that space, you don't have to perform. You don't have to prove. You just have to be. And being fully, honestly, vulnerably, is the most powerful thing you can do. Returning to the world. When Superman leaves the fortress, he doesn't return to glory. He returns to service. With a clearer heart, with deeper conviction, with renewed strength. And you can do the same. Every time you go within, you rise above. Every time you pause, you return with purpose. Every time you listen to your soul, you lead with integrity. So take the time. Find your quiet. Build your fortress. Because the world doesn't need another performer. It needs someone anchored. Someone who knows who they are. Someone who doesn't react, but responds. And that someone is you. Chapter 6. Legacy and Loss. Learning to let go and rise again. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Harvey Dent and what Superman chose to defy. The burden of a symbol. Superman was never just a man. He was a symbol. A myth in real time. He was what the world looked up to when hope felt scarce. He was the light in a skyline shadowed by fear. And yet, being a symbol is a burden. One that no one else could carry. Because when people project their dreams onto you, they also project their disappointments. They expect perfection, unwavering strength, eternal selflessness. But Superman, for all his power, was never invulnerable to the weight of expectation. What happens when the world begins to question you? When your every action is analyzed, politicized, or misunderstood? Superman didn't just fight villains. He fought cynicism. And sometimes even the people he saved didn't want to be saved. But he never stopped. Because the fight wasn't just for them. It was for something deeper. Legacy. Krypton's ghosts. To understand Superman's resilience, we must return to where it all began. The loss of Krypton. The ultimate tragedy. His first heartbreak. His deepest scar. Imagine knowing your world, your culture, your family, all of it, vanished in the blink of a star's explosion. Imagine surviving it, not because you were the strongest, but because you were the last. The survivor's guilt, the identity crisis, the aching absence of belonging. That loss could have broken him. It could have turned him bitter, cynical, vengeful. But it didn't. Instead, Superman transformed his loss into fuel, into fire, into purpose. He chose to honor his world by protecting this one. He chose to let grief guide him, not define him. And that's the first great lesson. Loss is not the end. It's the beginning of becoming something new. Lessons from Jonathan and Martha Clark Kent, before the Cape, before the flight, was raised by two farmers in Kansas. Jonathan and Martha Kent didn't raise a god. They raised a good man. When Clark lifted tractors as a boy, Jonathan didn't ask him to become a weapon. He asked him to become wise. When Martha watched him struggle with his dual identity, she didn't pressure him to choose. She helped him embrace both. Through their guidance, Clark learned what it meant to lose with grace and win with humility. Legacy, they taught him, isn't measured by the lives you save. It's measured by the values you leave behind. The death of Superman. There was a time, a dark moment, when Superman faced his own death. Not symbolically, literally. The world watched as Doomsday, a beast born of pure rage, struck blow after blow. And Superman, knowing the price, stood firm. He gave everything, his breath, his strength, his life. Why? Because some battles are worth dying for. Because some principles are worth our all. Because sometimes the greatest act of love is sacrifice. And in that death, the world felt its loss. The world realized what it had taken for granted. And when Superman rose again, not just as a figure of might, but as a resurrected symbol of endurance, his legacy deepened. Even in death, he taught us to live, choosing hope. When it hurts, grief never truly ends. It lingers. For Superman, loss isn't just a memory, it's a companion. He's lost Krypton, he's lost friends, he's lost versions of himself. And yet, each time he falls, he rises. Because rising isn't about pretending the pain isn't real. It's about choosing to keep moving despite it. Hope is not naivety. Hope is defiance in the face of despair. When Metropolis lies in ruin, when allies fall, when the world calls him a threat instead of a hero, he still chooses to help, to trust, to believe. Because Superman's greatest power isn't flight or strength. It's faith. Faith in people. Faith in good. Faith in tomorrow. What will you leave behind? One day, we all become memory. Your name may fade. Your face may blur. But your actions, your principles, the way you made people feel, that's your legacy. Superman didn't build monuments to himself. He built bridges. He built hope. He built a better future, one person at a time. Ask yourself, what are you building? Are you chasing applause or meaning? Are you hoarding power or giving light? Are you running from pain or transforming it? Loss will come. That is inevitable. But what you do with that loss, that's where greatness is forged. Becoming a beacon. Superman didn't just inspire with strength. He inspired with steadiness. He didn't scream louder than the darkness. He simply shined. Even when doubted, even when mocked, even when hated. Because legacy isn't loud. Legacy is consistent. It's the quiet echo of your daily choices. And when you choose kindness over cruelty, service over ego, faith over fear, you become a beacon, just like him. Letting go to move forward. Sometimes, to grow, you have to let go. Let go of the version of you that no longer fits. Let go, Chapter 7. Love and duality. Balancing power and connection. Even the strongest need someone to lean on. The myth of the lone hero. We often think of heroes as solitary figures. Lone wolves, warriors who walk the world alone, burdened with greatness. The cape, the symbol, the mission. It's easy to forget that behind Superman's invincible image lies a heart. One that longs, aches, and loves. Because despite all the power in the universe, Superman's strength was never rooted in isolation. It was forged in connection. Let this be your first truth. Real strength is not the absence of vulnerability. It's the courage to love despite it. Clark Kent, the man behind the cape. Before he was Superman, he was Clark Kent. Not a disguise, but a dual reality. A man who went to work at the Daily Planet, who tripped over chairs and spilled coffee, who shared smiles with coworkers and quiet dinners with Lois Lane. Clark Kent is not Superman's mask. He is his anchor. He is the reminder that greatness is not found in the clouds. It's built in the everyday, in showing up, in being kind, in listening, in choosing humility when you could demand worship. It is through Clark Kent that Superman stays human. And it's through your humanity that you'll discover your real power. Lois Lane. Love beyond power. To understand Superman's heart, we must speak of Lois Lane. She's more than a love interest. She's a truth seeker, a relentless journalist, a woman of sharp wit and even sharper courage. She didn't fall in love with a god. She fell in love with the man who believed in doing right when no one's watching. Their love is a dance, not of dominance, but of partnership. It's a reminder that even the strongest soul needs someone who sees them fully. Lois challenges Clark, grounds him, protects his hope when he starts to doubt. Because that's what real love does. It doesn't save you. It empowers you to save yourself. And when two powerful forces unite in respect and understanding, they become unstoppable. The balance between two worlds. Superman lives between two identities. Clark Kent, the man. Kal-El, the Kryptonian. Two names, two histories, two hearts. And yet, he never lets one consume the other. He finds balance. He learns to breathe between the pressure of worlds. To give Metropolis his all without losing Smallville. To carry Krypton in his heart while still planting roots on Earth. That's the lesson. You are not just your past. You are not only your ambitions. You are both. Your origin and your intention. And when you embrace your duality, you find freedom. Intimacy as strength. We live in a world that often praises detachment. Don't get too close. Don't care too much. Stay strong. Stay silent. But Superman defies that narrative. He gets close. He listens. He feels deeply. And he still stands tall. Because intimacy is not weakness. Vulnerability is not a flaw. Connection doesn't dilute your strength. It refines it. You don't become powerful by hiding your heart. You become powerful by learning how to hold it open, even in the storm. Sacrifices in the name of love. Love, for Superman, comes at a cost. He can't always be there. He must often choose between saving the world and holding the one he loves. And yet, Lois stays. Not because it's easy, but because she sees the mission. True love is not about constant proximity. It's about shared purpose, mutual growth, sacrifice without resentment. And in that sacrifice, Superman teaches us. To love deeply is to serve something greater than yourself. It's messy, it's painful, but it's beautiful. Friendship in the Justice League love isn't only romantic. It's found in friendship, in brotherhood, in allies who stand beside you. Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Martian Manhunter. The Justice League isn't just a team. It's a family of warriors bound not by blood, but by shared belief. And Superman? He doesn't lead by dominance. He leads by trust, by compassion, by the ability to say, I can't do this alone. You don't need to walk alone to be great. Let others in. Learn from them. Stand with them. Collaboration doesn't shrink your light. It amplifies it. The challenge of dual commitments. Every person with a dream will face this. The challenge of loving and building, of giving time to your mission while honoring your relationships. Superman shows us this isn't a problem to be solved. It's a rhythm to be mastered. Sometimes you'll get it wrong. Sometimes the scale will tip too far. But the goal isn't perfect balance every day. It's intentional alignment over time. Check in with your people. Choose presence over performance. Make time for connection, even in pursuit of greatness. You don't have to trade one for the other. You can hold both. Building a love. Worth fighting for love is not just found. It's forged. In honesty. In patience. In forgiveness. Superman and Lois didn't happen by chance. They built their bond brick by brick, through late-night confessions, through fights and forgiveness, through showing up, again and again. The world often chases excitement, but real connection is not fireworks. It's firewood, steady, enduring, and warm. If you want a love like Superman's, don't chase perfection. Chase partnership. Loving yourself first. Before Superman could give the world his heart, he had to accept his own. He had to believe he was worthy of love, even as an alien, even with powers, even with guilt. And so must you. Because until you embrace your full self, light and shadow, your love for others will always be incomplete. Superman teaches, self-love is not selfish. It's the foundation for all other love. See yourself. Forgive yourself. Support yourself. Be the partner you want to find. In the end, connection saves us all. When the world ends, or when it feels like it might, it's not power that brings us back. It's love. It's the hand held in darkness, the voice that says, I believe in you. The embrace that tells you, you're not alone. Superman doesn't just save the world, he saves relationships. He shows us that being strong means being available, present, open. And that love, real, raw, vulnerable love, is not the weakness of the mighty. It's their greatest strength. So if you want to become like Superman, don't just train your body. Don't just focus your mind. Open your heart. Because power without connection is hollow. But with love, with deep intentional connection, you can not only move mountains, you can move souls. Chapter 8. Enemies Within. Confronting Inner Darkness. Your greatest enemy is not out there. It's the voice inside that says you can't. The illusion of invincibility. When we think of Superman, we think of a man who cannot be broken. Faster than a speeding bullet, able to lift cities, immune to most threats. But that's a myth, not the powers. Those are real. The myth is that he's invulnerable, because his true battles have never been with monsters or aliens. They've been with himself. Superman may be indestructible physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, he bleeds like the rest of us, maybe even more so. And that's what makes him great. Not his perfection, but his resilience in imperfection. This is the chapter where we stop looking outward for our enemies and start looking inward. Kryptonite isn't always green. The world knows about kryptonite, the glowing green rock that weakens Superman. But kryptonite isn't always literal. Sometimes kryptonite is guilt. Sometimes it's doubt. Sometimes it's fear. For Superman, it's the echo of a world lost. Krypton's destruction forever branded on his soul. It's the crushing pressure of being the only one left. It's the weight of expectation. That every life saved is his duty, and every life lost, his failure. Your kryptonite might look different. Maybe it's trauma. Maybe it's shame. Maybe it's the belief that you're not good enough. But here's the truth. Kryptonite can only weaken you if you carry it in silence. Superman confronts his kryptonite. He admits when he's in pain. He asks for help. He feels fully. And so must you, the shadow self. Every person carries a shadow, the part of you you hide, the part that lashes out in fear, that doubts your worth, that wants to quit. Superman's shadow shows up in rage, in the temptation to control rather than serve, in the loneliness that whispers, they'll never understand you. There are stories, alternate realities, where Superman gives in to the shadow, where he rules instead of protects, where grief overpowers purpose. But our Superman chooses differently. He looks his darkness in the eye. He doesn't pretend it isn't there. He integrates it. That's your job too. You don't defeat the shadow by ignoring it. You defeat it by understanding it. Only then can you lead yourself. The fear of losing control. With great power comes a terrifying question. What if I lose control? Superman walks this tightrope every day. A sneeze could level buildings. An angry punch could destroy lives. He must master himself every second. It would be easier to pull away, to live in isolation, to avoid risk entirely. But that's not his path. He steps into the world, again and again. Not because he's fearless, but because he's disciplined. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the choice to show up in spite of it. Your strength will scare you. Your dreams may feel too big to hold, but trust that you can learn to wield them. Step by step, decision by decision. Superman doesn't suppress his power. He hones it. So must you. The pain of being different. Superman is always other. He walks among us, but he is not one of us. He looks human, but his biology, origin, and experience set him apart. The pain of difference is real. Many of us feel it. The feeling of not belonging, of being misunderstood, of carrying a truth too heavy to explain. Superman doesn't pretend it's easy, but he doesn't let it isolate him. Instead, he finds meaning in his difference. He builds bridges between worlds. He makes his pain useful. Whatever makes you different, that's not your burden. That's your gift. Imposter syndrome at God level. Yes, even Superman questions himself. He wonders, do I deserve this responsibility? Am I doing enough? Am I good enough? That voice, the one that questions your right to lead, to create, to shine. It doesn't go away just because you're strong. It grows louder the more impact you have. Superman overcomes imposter syndrome, not by pretending he has all the answers, but by choosing purpose anyway. You don't have to feel 100% ready to start. You just have to be willing to grow in the fire. Let your doubt sharpen you. Let it humble you. Let it keep you curious, but never let it stop you. Rage, grief, and the edges of humanity. Superman's most dangerous enemy isn't Lex Luthor. It's grief. It's rage. When he loses someone, when the world betrays him, the line between hero and tyrant blurs. But he doesn't cross it. He feels his anger. He mourns. But he doesn't become the thing he fights. That is mastery. It's not about never breaking down. It's about choosing what to do after you've broken. Superman teaches, you can scream, you can fall, but when you rise, rise with purpose. You are not defined by your anger. You are defined by your response to it. Rebuilding from within Superman has fallen. Many times. He's failed. He's made mistakes. He's been broken. But every time he rebuilds. Not by denying the pain, but by learning from it. By becoming more human, not less. Growth isn't glamorous. It's messy. It's slow. It's painful. But it is sacred. If you've been through darkness, good. That means you've met yourself. Now choose what to do with that knowledge. Forgiving yourself. Superman is haunted by every life he couldn't save. But he doesn't let guilt become his home. He lets it become his teacher. And most importantly, he forgives himself. You will fall. You will hurt others. You will wish you'd done better. But shame keeps you stuck. Forgiveness sets you free. Speak to yourself as Superman would, with compassion, with accountability, with hope. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to keep rising, choosing light every day. There is no final battle with darkness. It's not something you conquer once and forget. It's a daily choice. Superman wakes up each day with the power to dominate the world. But he chooses love. He chooses service. He chooses light. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. So must you. Every day, you will hear the voice that says, "You're not enough. Why try? Give up." Let that voice come. And then, choose differently. Choose love. Choose courage. Choose action. That's how you defeat the enemy within. Not by erasing it, but by rising above it. Chapter 9. Beyond the cape. Becoming a symbol. You don't need a cape to be Superman. You just need to stand for something greater than yourself. What does the S-shield really mean? Before we speak of Superman as a symbol, we must ask, what is a symbol? A symbol is more than an image. It's a story, a promise, a legacy. And Superman's emblem, that iconic S, isn't just his family crest. It's a signal to the hopeless. You are not alone. To the afraid, you are stronger than you know. To the unjust, you will be held accountable. Superman wears the cape, but it's the symbol that travels. From child to child, from culture to culture, from imagination to action. And the truth is, anyone can wear that symbol. Not by putting it on, but by living it. So the real question is, what do you stand for? More than muscles. The power of moral courage. It's easy to mistake strength for muscle. To think Superman is powerful because he can punch through walls. But real power, enduring power, is moral courage. The strength to choose what's right when it's unpopular, when it's dangerous, when it costs you everything. Superman doesn't save people because it's easy. He saves them because it's right. Even when they fear him, even when they betray him, even when it hurts. He teaches us. True power is choosing empathy over ego. That's how you become a symbol. By showing others what integrity looks like in motion. When you do what's right, loudly, consistently, relentlessly, you give others permission to do the same. The evolution from man to myth. Clark Kent was born. Superman was made. And the making didn't happen on Krypton or in Kansas. It happened over years. Through pain, through choice, through sacrifice. He became a myth not because he was untouchable, but because he kept showing up. Every time a child was trapped in rubble. Every time a villain threatened peace. Every time the world forgot its own humanity. Superman reminded it. You do not become a legend through perfection. You become one through consistency. Through action aligned with your deepest values. You don't need alien powers to become mythic. You need purpose. You need the courage to live it. The symbol lives in the small moments. It's tempting to think that becoming a symbol requires grand gestures. Saving planets, toppling villains, delivering speeches. But Superman teaches us that it's the small moments that matter most. Smiling at someone in despair. Telling the truth when it's inconvenient. Holding the line when others walk away. Those are the moments that ripple. Those are the moments that build a symbol. You don't become Superman by lifting cars. You become him by lifting people. Leadership without ego. Superman doesn't lead by domination. He leads by example. By showing up first. By staying the longest. By doing the hard thing without needing applause. He doesn't need credit. He needs impact. And in a world obsessed with fame, Superman teaches, let your legacy be louder than your ego. True leadership doesn't demand the spotlight. It creates light for others to shine. You can be that light. Right now. Right where you are. Inspiring others to believe. The most powerful thing Superman does isn't stopping asteroids or beating supervillains. It's inspiring others to act. When Superman flies, others stand up. When he believes, others hope. His presence is a catalyst. His story is a spark. You can be that spark. Not by pretending to be perfect, but by being real. By showing your scars and your strength. By living proof that one person can make a difference. You don't have to save the world. Just start by saving someone's day. A legacy built in silence. Superman doesn't post about his victories. He doesn't advertise his struggles. He just does the work. Quietly, relentlessly, with heart. Legacy isn't built on noise. It's built on repetition, on values lived every single day. Your legacy will not be the things you say. It will be the lives you touch, the promises you keep, the courage you inspire. You don't need an audience to become iconic. You need alignment. Align your values with your actions. That's how symbols are born. The burden and beauty of hope is heavy. To carry it is to disappoint sometimes, to be misunderstood, to be doubted. But Superman carries it anyway. Not because he always feels hopeful, but because he knows others need to see it. He becomes the light in the storm, even when he feels the thunder inside. That's your calling too, to carry hope, to hold light, even when you're unsure, even when you're tired, especially then. Because when people see you rise, despite the odds, they rise too, becoming a symbol in your own life. You don't have to be Superman to be a symbol. You just have to live with clarity, conviction, and compassion. Show others what it means to persevere. Show them how to fail with grace, how to love deeply, how to lead quietly, how to stand up, not because you'll win, but because it's right. Superman reminds us, symbols aren't born, they're built, brick by brick, act by act, choice by choice. So build yourself. Live like someone is watching, not with fear, but with responsibility. You are someone's Superman, maybe many people's. Now go prove they're right. Chapter 10, The Superman Within. Becoming your own hero. You were born to rise. Now choose to. You are the origin. Story. Superman didn't wait for the world to give him permission to be great. He chose it. He could have hidden. He could have lived quietly. Instead, he stood up and stepped into destiny. You have that same choice. No, you weren't born on Krypton, but you were born with purpose. You weren't raised by Jonathan and Martha Kent, but someone, somewhere, shaped you. And now you're here, reading these words, searching for something greater. That's not an accident. That's your call to action. Every hero begins with a choice. Yours is simple. Will you rise? Power doesn't come from the sun. It comes from discipline. In the comics, Superman draws strength from the yellow sun. But in the real world, your power comes from something else. Discipline. Not motivation. Not genetics. Not luck. Just relentless, daily, invisible effort. You don't lift cars, but you lift burdens. You don't fly, but you rise again and again after falling. You don't shoot lasers, but your words can destroy or build. Superman's powers are fiction. but your power to grow is real. Want to become your own hero? Start mastering your habits. Build a morning routine that sets your mindset on fire. Train your body like you're preparing to face a villain. Feed your mind like it's your most precious weapon. Discipline turns you from Clark Kent into Superman. Not in the sky, but in life. Face your kryptonite. Every hero has weakness. For Superman, it's kryptonite, a glowing green shard that strips him of power. For you, it may be doubt, fear, procrastination, people-pleasing, addiction, trauma. But here's the secret. Heroes don't ignore their kryptonite. They learn how to fight through it. Superman never runs from kryptonite. He endures it, pushes past it. You must do the same. Call your weakness by name. Then, go to war with it. That's how growth happens. Not by pretending you're invincible, but by proving you're unstoppable. Build your fortress of solitude. Superman retreats to his fortress of solitude to reflect, recharge, and refocus. You need one too. A mental space, a physical space, a daily ritual that returns you to purpose. Your fortress might be morning silence with your journal, late night walks to process thoughts, prayer, meditation, gym sessions. Create the space where your identity is protected, where your truth is louder than the world's noise. Heroes don't grow in chaos. They grow in clarity, and clarity comes from solitude. Choose legacy over likes. Superman doesn't save lives for applause. He doesn't show up for praise. He shows up because it's who he is. Your path to greatness isn't fueled by attention. It's fueled by alignment between your actions and your values. Today's culture says, be seen. Superman says, be real. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more integrity. When you live by values, you don't need validation. When you serve a mission, you don't fear rejection. Choose legacy, and the world will remember. Your pain is your power. Superman knows loss, the death of his planet, the loneliness of being different, the weight of knowing he can never fully belong. But he turns pain into purpose. You've known pain too. Loss, failure, rejection, anxiety, betrayal. Use it. Let it soften you. Let it strengthen you. Let it fuel your why. Because nothing moves others like the story of someone who turned their scars into service. Your pain is not the end. It's the beginning of your mission. Be the hero in ordinary moments. Not every day will feel epic. Not every battle will be world-shaking. But the true test of a hero is consistency. Be the person who shows up when no one thanks you, when it's inconvenient, when you're tired, when it's boring. Superman doesn't just fight aliens. He lifts cars off crash victims. He rescues cats from trees. He comforts crying children. Big hearts shine brightest in small moments. Live your values, not just in public, but in private. That's what makes you heroic. Become the mentor. You needed Superman. Had mentors. His Kryptonian parents. The Kents. The Justice League. Who helped you? And more importantly, who can you help? One of the greatest marks of becoming your own hero is the decision to help others rise. Be the coach, the older sibling, the voice of hope, the living example. Become the mentor you wish you had when you were younger. And in doing so, you'll become more heroic than you ever imagined. Write your own origin. No one writes your story for you. You're not stuck in your past. You're not bound by labels. You're not trapped by your circumstances. You are writing an origin story. Every day. With your choices. With your actions. With your vision. You are not waiting to become the hero. You already are, if you choose to be. So stop shrinking. Stop waiting. Stop hoping someone else will come save the day. Look in the mirror. You're the one you've been waiting for. Your cape is calling. You don't need flight to soar. You don't need X-ray vision to see what matters. You don't need to wear the S to stand for something. You just need belief, discipline, clarity, courage, and the decision to become a little more heroic every single day. No one becomes Superman overnight, but moment by moment, you build the character that inspires, that uplifts, that protects, that leads. So ask yourself, what would Superman do? Then go do it. And one day, someone will look up to you the way you looked up to him. Because now, you are the hero.